I had a friend. I've said this story to those of you here. Some of you know the story, but I had a friend of mine. He had AIDS. Notice I did this, right? In his brain, he had AIDS. He was a homosexual. He was a special dude. Forget that he's a homosexual. We had some kind of kinship for a couple of years. I would see him once in a while. He was part of a spiritual organization I had frequented before, and once in a while we would touch base. And at some point I had to write a thesis or a memoir for one of my many diplomas, and I decided to do it on AIDS. So then I contacted him, and that's how our relationship rekindled for some time. And then one time, and he was a special dude. He was very honest. And he had gone through the whole healing, trying to heal. He wasn't like 20, he was maybe, I don't know, 55 at the time. Maybe I was in my late 20s, early 30s. It's been a while. He's dead now. And we were sitting down. So he had gone through the whole so-called healing journey of trying to heal AIDS and all this nonsense that a lot of people who have quote-unquote AIDS go through. So he was totally disillusioned. He was just absolutely disillusioned about everything. He was a special dude to be around with, because there was a genuine soberness with a morosity associated to it. It wasn't totally genuine, but there was something sincere. And we were sitting down one day, and I'm a full-fledged heterosexual, right? And I'm hanging out with this dude sitting in my place. We had some Egyptian rug that was there. I remember it because I remember the rug. And we were having a chit-chat, and it wasn't a chit-chat at this point anymore. It was a heart-to-heart talk. And I was telling him, as all this was dawning on me and I was getting off of my multiple trips, right? And I was like landing into incarnating this, like I'm genuinely intimidated by sexual power. And I said this to him, and he looked at me and says, I know exactly what you mean. Me also. Now this is a full-fledged homo who lived a homo life, but that was his way of dealing with sexuality, right? So we had a meeting point. Because I don't buy into homosexual nothing, right? A person may have a certain kind of behavior. He's a homosexual, I don't care, right? He's a man, he has sexuality, and how he deals with his sexuality and how I deal with my sexuality. I dealt with it in a particular kind of way. He dealt with it in a particular kind of way, which is called homosexuality, but not in my book, just so that we're clear how I think, right? And we were at a meeting point where both of us had the humility and the sobriety, I don't know if we can use the word like this, to say, this is really something. So that means the compensations are gone, the mind trips are gone, the delirium is gone, the hype is gone. You're just like coming down into yourself, coming down into your pelvis, starting to feel that power, and you realize, yo, this is a dragon. And it scares the shit out of me because I don't understand it. The world is terrified of it. Nobody really wants to talk about it. Nobody teaches you how to ride that dragon, how to tame the dragon, how to channel the dragon, and all its actions, you have to pay the price. And that's the truth. Action comes from that generative power. So we live in the world of action-reaction, and it comes from there. You generate action from that basic energy, and everything that happens to you, supposedly good or supposedly bad, comes from that place. And most people are living totally unconsciously and are following dictates of their minds and have no idea how their sexual energy is being used. On top of that, we add society, mind conditioning, transgenerational conditioning, cultural condition for thousands of years that is hacking into that power, enslaving you so that you behave in a particular kind of way. It's a deep-ass fucking rabbit hole if you have the guts to even consider it. So, all this to say, we had this little juncture in time where we met. Ironically, I think after that, we had a fall off because I told him my truth and he got upset at me because he was expecting me to be gentle and I was just like straight up. A little too straight up for him. Then he went about his business, and I think maybe a year or two later, his sister called me and says, homeboy is dead. I'm like, ah. So that's not the point of the story that he's dead. The point of the story is that to be intimidated in front of a power is a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of humility, meaning you're intelligent. That's what humility means for me. Intelligence, when something is greater than you, you humble. Humble means you understand that it's bigger than you. That's what humble means. And that's when wisdom starts to arise. So now you can make a decision. Well, what are you going to do? Maybe I don't want to deal with this. That's your choice. Maybe I want to continue to compensate. Maybe I want to learn how to master sexuality in a specific, right? And in my case, I'm like, no. I want to master that power. Whatever that means and whatever that takes. Remember, so I said sexuality is death. I want to master death. You don't think I want to master death. You say you want to master sexuality. And then it opens into a universe of people who speak of mastering sexuality, and then you have multi-orgasms. Notice how it's shallow suddenly, back to stupid land. So anyways, there's everything you want in this day and age, but this is not like how to make the green circulation. No, that's not. That's too much at the surface for me. Anyways, that put me on a path. And that's on my bio, I said, this is the goddess. This is where the goddess begins. The study of the goddess. Because that's the essence of tantra. Tantra, as far as I understand it, because you have geeks everywhere on earth, they abound, don't they? It's a discovery of life in its totality, starting with, well, what you have, which is your human body, which is the temple of life, and not dismissing any power, and discovering how all of this comes together perfectly harmonized with the thread of a golden thread at the very center that puts it all together. Long story short, when I began to have genuine interest in discovering what sexuality is and not live in a compensational world, then I was brought on a path and an initiatic journey began.